I want to start with Michkov because that is the most pressing thing. And it's what they didn't say. And that's what's interesting because what they do, you didn't ask the question because you knew what was coming, but I wanted to hear it.
Yeah.
And it was
going to be
much more of the same. The quote I took from Jonesy on Michkov, we don't know. And the quote I took from Hilferty, at some point it will be a great thing for the Philadelphia Flyers. And then he turned to Jonesy. He was like, that's good, right?
Yeah.
And
it was basically like, I didn't say anything wrong, right? I didn't mess up.
The only thing that had to come out of this press conference was I didn't say oh, he's coming. And he didn't. And it seemed like Jonesy was like, way to go, kid. And that's really where we are with Matvei Michkov. It's, we want him, but we're not going to act like we're trying to steal him.
Yeah.
We're going to play nice. It's a continuation of the playing nice that we heard from Danny Briere.
The furthest that either of them were willing to go, which was a good quote, and I'll almost certainly include it in my article, was we will welcome him with open arms. That was about as forward as Jonesy was willing to get, because he then obviously qualified it with, look, we've been planning for us not to have him for the entirety of the contract. We respect everything that's going on. We know about as much as you guys do, which is certainly a lie. I'm sure they know a lot more than we do, but of course they have to say that.
They're not supposed to.
Yeah, but I'm sure they have some boots on the ground and they're getting information about where this is going.
Yeah.
I don't think they are directly involved, but it would shock me if they don't have more information than we do.
Matvei Michkov has an agent.
Yes.
You would assume his agent has a phone and knows the number of the team that drafted him in the NHL. That's you would guess. But
you would guess they're getting semi-regular updates on progress. And I reported this in my article yesterday that when I talk to people in the Flyers organization, they don't seem like this is not a possibility anymore. It's still possible. Now, we'll see how it plays out probably over the next 3 weeks or so, because based on that initial report that kicked things off, I guess this was way back in early May, late April.
May.
When the Scott people basically said that we want a resolution, a decision to be made by the end of June. That does set a timeline. So I do think we will know one way or the other probably by the end of this month as to whether Michkov will be coming over this year or whether they're going to have to wait at least one more year before that all gets worked out. But yeah, what we got from Jonesy and Hilferty was about what you would expect. It's clear that they are not ruling out the possibility that they could get him over here as soon as this season. It's also clear that they do not want to ruffle any feathers.
Nope, absolutely not. And they are playing this right. That's all I can say right now. We'll get into some of the stuff that they said that I'm like, well, then how can you justify? But we'll get into that later. This thing, I think they are handling very well with the Matvei Michkov situation. And I did appreciate Dan Hilferty has a really great way of communicating with the media, fans, whatever, and getting across his personal fandom and being like, listen, I don't know shit. I know. And he brought it up multiple times. I worked in healthcare. I understand that. I understand business, in general, but he gets across, listen, I want him. I badly want Matvei Michkov, but he even reiterated, we drafted him with the understanding he had a 3-year contract in the KHL. Right. And that's all we know. Now, again, they know more. They can't tell us that, and that's cool.
Yeah.
I think they're handling this properly.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. And speaking to Hilferty for a second, I do think that, because you mentioned that Hilferty very purposely makes the point that I'm a fan, I'm not the hockey guy. I love hockey, I know hockey, but I'm not the expert. These guys are the experts. They're running the team. But I thought one thing he did very well in this press conference, Hilferty, was saying that he's not an expert, but then dropping enough things to show that he knows what he's talking about.
Yes.
I did. The two things that stood out to me in that regard, one was, and we'll get into the specifics of this conversation a little bit later, when we were talking about making progress. And he noted about, to me, it's even more important for the progress of guys like Tyson Foerster. Look, would I expect an owner to know who Tyson Foerster is? Yeah, but also he's not Travis Konecny. He's not, he's not one of their superstars yet. And for him to bring up Tyson Foerster unprompted, it just shows a little bit of knowledge that like a Dave Scott probably didn't have. Then the second thing that jumped out at me, which I thought was like a legitimately very intelligent hockey point when I was bringing up about the idea of progress, he's like, look, there's teams like the Devils who we finished higher than that probably were worse than their true talent level this year. They might jump us next year, not because we got worse, but because they just play up to how good they are. Like, that's a legitimately intelligent observation about the NHL, and it shows that he's paying attention.
No, like they could have the exact same record next year and be 1 or 2 spots down in the standings because like the Devils figured it out, and then an Atlantic team figured it out, Ottawa, Buffalo, whoever. But that's like something we've said on this show. Like, yeah, maybe they don't take a step forward next year standings-wise, but maybe visually it's better. And we know now that Dan Hilferty listens to the show. We'll get into that in a little bit.
But
honestly,
it just, I think for me, like, it just shows
he's
that
really
like, he's good at like lowering expectations, but also
exceeding them.
Also exceeding them in the sense of like, oh yeah, he's knowledgeable. Like, no, he doesn't know hockey the way that Keith Jones and Danny Briere are doing. He acknowledges that, but he's not an idiot. Like, he knows the team, he follows the team closely, and he knows what's going on. And I think there was, especially by the end, there was a lot of doubt that Dave Scott had that same level of knowledge.
He just didn't have a level of interest.
Yeah.
Like, it ain't that hard.
I think he was interested in the team in theory.
Yes.
But I don't think he was as invested in the day-to-day minutia of the actual hockey team and the way that Hilferty certainly presents himself. And look, even if he's faking it, he's putting the effort in to do a good job of faking it.
I think like he is great for the way like Jonesy is great at this because he understands the market. Like Hilferty just has this little, when we interviewed him, it was just a couple of minutes at the Flyers Carnival. He came up. Now, listen, Dan Hilferty knows who Charlie O'Connor is. Charlie O'Connor is the #1 hockey beat reporter in the city of Philadelphia. And I don't say that, you laugh, but I don't say that like as bullshit. But he comes up and he goes, Bill, Kelly, hey, how you doing? Like, he's very good at this thing.
Yeah.
We all silly like the mayor.